The one and only Tommy Shaw joins me live, and I can see him on Zoom, and I can tell you he still hasn't aged. How are you, Tommy?
I'm good. I did something where I can't see you, but if you can see me,
that's better. It's better if you don't. Trust me, I'm better heard than seen, Tommy. And as I see you're in a studio? Is that a home studio you're in?
Yeah, it's my home studio.
Pretty nice, pretty nice. Have you? Is that where you recorded Going to California?
No, we did that in California, actually, when I still lived there. This is where we recorded The Mission, though.
Oh, so you don't live in California anymore? I thought you did.
No, we moved to Tennessee in, let's see, 2013.
Oh, I did not. I wasn't aware of that. Man, everybody, are you in the Nashville area?
Just south of, about 15 minutes south of the city, still in the same county.
I mean, everybody, especially in the rock world. I mean, I think a lot of people think of Nashville as being so country-centric, but there's a huge rock scene there now. I know so many of my friends that have moved to Nashville in the rock world. Obviously, you've picked up on that yourself, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, John Prine, until recently, lived right down the road, and Steve Cropper lives around the corner. Paul Taylor, you probably know him.
Sure.
I could walk to his house, and there's people. Oh, Bela Flack lives. One of the guys from Kings of Leon lives. Skinner's manager. I walk by everybody's house all the time.
Yeah, well, Dave Mustaine is there. Vince Neil is there. I think Steven Tyler was there for a while. Guys you've written songs for, actually, if all, in that area. It seems like, do you get the sense that it's a good rock community, Tommy? Do you sense that, is everybody sort of like in their own little worlds, or is there sort of a scene there for rock now, do you think?
It's kind of just normal. Everybody's busy doing their own thing, and they're especially now, everybody's home doing Zoom chats and doing. Actually, we're getting ready to start doing some recording in 3 different studios at the same time. Actually 4, because Lawrence will be in Canada, Todd will be in Austin, and Will Ivankovich is about 8 minutes up the road, and I'll be here. We've just got the technologies and got the apps and everything together to start doing that. So that's going to be interesting. But it keeps Todd from having to travel to Nashville by plane or by bus, and and I can't blame him. He's being very cautious about exposing himself. Well, that sounds funny. Exposing himself to he doesn't mind exposing himself that way. But yeah, he's got a young daughter, and he doesn't want to expose anybody to anything.
Right. What you're doing with Styx is a follow-up to The Mission. Is that already written? Are you pretty much down the road on that? That's what you're about to record, a brand new studio record?
Yes, we've been working on it. You just never stop writing and co-writing and change, working on stuff till you feel like, okay, that one's ready. And then you work on another one, and then next thing you know, we're thinking, we need to go ahead and record this. Otherwise, we're going to have enough actually, we do have enough for a double album, but we're just going to pick what we think are the best ones that go together. And we did start, and we've got one version of it that we really like. I'm just talking about writing demos, and Todd's ready to go in and start cutting drums, and that's how we do it. Because we're all in different places, especially now, we can't all be in the same room, but we're all used to recording that way.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to a lot of artists and they feel differently about that. Everybody has a different take. Some are used to working all in separate studios and sort of patching it all together and mixing it all down, and having one person do that in obviously one location. And others are like, no, we got to be in the same room looking at each other in the eye. Even in this pandemic time, I know a few artists I've talked to who everybody has gone in and gotten tested to make sure that they don't have the virus, and they're actually from 6 feet apart standing in a room, and others are doing like what you said, hey, we don't want to risk it. We're all going to get our parts done. It's going to work, and this is the way we want to do it. Do you miss all being in one room and seeing each other? Would that be your preferred way if you could do that?
We haven't done that since the 70s. we've done it this way, especially since Pro Tools came about, because I've always lived somewhere else, and getting everybody together to do that in the same room thing, it wasn't that big of a benefit for us. There are some bands like if you were Tedeschi Trucks, their whole thing is that thing that's moving, and it's a living organism. Ours is more compositional, so it's more almost like a little rock symphony. Everybody has parts, and you play your part, and Todd he's the glue that holds it together, and Ricky, and we're fine with that. You just keep working on your part, and then it's all built to fit together, and when you have great mixers, it makes their job very easy.
Last time I saw you, I guess, was when you guys were in the studio with me in New York to promote The Mission. It was just about to come out at that time. Obviously, great stuff, a very ambitious record. I know you put a lot into it, the concept of it and all that. Looking back on that, how do you feel about that record in retrospect? Didn't you guys do something fairly recently where you went to like NASA or something with that?
Well, it was kind of a natural attraction because we did so much looking into things at Nashville, at NASA, and getting answers to, how long would it take to get to Mars, and so we could write the story so it seemed factual and possible and feasible. And in doing that, we got invited to Houston Space Center and to Huntsville, to their space center, and to Florida, and JPL most recently, and have gotten to know people. The guy Todd, I can't remember his last name. He's the guy who built the rocket that went to Saturn, and Cassini, and he designed, built, and ran the Cassini mission for, I don't know, 12 years or something like that. And Lawrence and I were in the room where all that happened, and they call it the center of the universe, because all data from all space missions from every country comes through that portal there. And so we were in this room that looked familiar, and he started telling me, he said, in those last few minutes, the last 5 minutes before Cassini cratered into Saturn, it was radio silence. And he said, you have to understand, this was like my child, this thing that I created and took care of, and then I had to send it to its demise. And he said, this was very emotional for me. And then when they played your song, Radio Silence, there, he said, it was just, all of us were tearing up. It was like, this is, I've always been a space nerd, and to have any kind of connection like that with something so huge, it was unbelievable.
I thinking of The Mission, and for those that don't know, the last Styx album, The Mission, was essentially a concept album about a mission to Mars. Seeing what just happened with SpaceX and Elon Musk's involvement and all that, it's maybe not that far-fetched. I mean, I know you set the story for The Mission like 10, 20 years in advance, but maybe we're looking at something sooner than that, Tommy, you think?
I know Elon Musk is saying, very soon. He's ready to launch the thing they called BFR at first, but I forget what they're calling it now. But they've got a rocket that he wants to get men, astronauts on it and get going up there. It's hard to doubt him with what he's achieved so far.
Being that you're such a space nerd, would you go up in one? If Elon Musk called you and you started getting those trips, would you go on a rocket?
I might do it, yeah. I might, I'd be scared to death, but it's what an amazing thing to get to do. Yeah. I don't know if it might be a one-way ticket though. That's the only problem. Go ahead. What were you gonna say? Yeah, I mean, who knows? I would love to have that problem.
Yeah, for sure. I'm thinking now with Styx, you guys being so prolific with always making new music. Like The Mission a couple years ago, you're getting ready to make a new record now. A band, and there are a lot of artists that have very different views on this, that have careers and catalogs like Styx has. I mean, you guys have a history over 40 years now of great songs and a great catalog. And there are some that I talk to who have the position about making new music when you're a quote unquote classic rock artist. And they're like, not worth it. Most fans don't want to hear it when we play it live. Radio doesn't play it. We're not going to bother. We're just going to go play the hits every summer. Clearly, Styx has a different thinking on that it's important for you to still create and make new music. Talk a little bit about that, because I personally, as a fan, love new music from the artists I grew up with. And a lot of it is very good, but it does bum me out that a lot of it does not get the support that I feel it should. What's your take on all that?
Well, it's something I can't turn off. And all of us are like that. You wake up in the morning and you next thing I know, I'm singing a song to the dog, you know, and then I hear that and I go get the guitar and I said I should record that because I'll forget it. I've got so many little song seeds that are on iPhone, little iMovies. And then I'll go like on this record. I went through it and found some and I started playing it. I was like, well, we can flesh this out into a song. And then Will gets a hold of it and he starts arranging and building demos, and I add to that, and we start pretending we're Ricky Phillips and Todd on the drum machine, just so we can give those guys an idea. Then they get in and they make it theirs. It's so real, and it's still us. It's the same people who did those songs back then. We didn't change. We just have more life experience, and we still play. You know, you've seen our band. It's a really good band, and we play the new music with the same kind of authority that we play the songs we played 1,000 times. And our experience has been, especially with the Mission, that even if people, you can look out there sometimes if we're playing a song like Red Storm, and it starts out, well, I don't know that one, and as it builds, there's people are sitting on the edge of their seat, and by the time it gets to the end of it, with Lawrence playing that huge keyboard solo and Todd wailing away on the drums, people they stand up and they're I can tell it's like a holy shit thing, and so. What is not to like about that? I understand some people they might not want us to do that just thinking about it. But once they're there in that seat and they realize that we're playing this new music, which if we didn't believe in it, we wouldn't have released it. We have plenty of songs that don't belong on albums. You know, that happens when you write. Sometimes you have to write the awful stuff to get to the good stuff. But we choose it very carefully, and we craft these records so that we have to like it. And we're deadly just critical of ourselves. It's like this is too long. I'm bored now, you know. Or put this one there. So by the time you hear this album, this thing has been beat up and kicked around and worked on, and it's something we're very proud of, and we look forward to playing it live.
Sounds to me like, as a songwriter, you're somebody that stuff's always coming to you. Are you a guy that has to sit down and carve out time that I'm going to sit in that studio I'm looking at you in right now and I'm going to write, and I need quiet and I need to focus? Or are you somebody that you're always reaching for the iPhone and hitting the voice memos, and like in the middle of the night I woke up with a song? I mean, I've talked to artists who've written songs that they've dreamt and they've woken up in the middle of the night and hummed them into their phone. What's that process like for you?
All of those things, all of it. I'm glad you can't see all my mess here, because I'm what you would call a reluctant engineer. I with Will being in the picture, I sort of just said, I'm done with doing that. And then this happened, and the only way that I could be involved in anything was to get back into it. So I just, half an hour before I called you, I got the cables so I could add a second screen and do Zoom here and do Pro Tools over here. Well, I called the girl from our office, Ashley, and I said, let's check this out before I go on, so we don't have don't crash and burn. And there was no audio, and I didn't have time to figure all this out. But I can do it well enough where I can I can record a session, and I can play and sing the parts to give you an idea of what to do, and then I can hand it over to Will. and he tidies it up, and we start the process that way.
When you first joined Styx back in '76 and did the Crystal Ball album, what did you feel pressure coming into that band at that time, even though they didn't have massive success yet? As a songwriter, as a musician, did you feel pressure? I mean, your contributions are pretty large on that first record as the new guy in at the time. But what was in your head at that time coming into a band that had been established somewhat?
I could not wait to get on that stage. I was so excited. I felt like JY was like the, he was the great hunter, with a great pedigree, hunting Labrador hunter, massive chest, and I was like the 6-month-old lab puppy running around, peeing on everything, and like that's how I was. I was so excited I couldn't stand still, and I was running circles around JY, and I could tell it was like he was going to just knock, he just was like, calm down. I was so, and I'm still excited to be in Styx. The music is just it's so physical and so demanding. It demands you be at your best every single time you step on that stage. Otherwise, you're bringing a bunch of clams that people hadn't ordered. So you still have to rise up to it. That's what I love, and that's what I miss about it.
Did you ever envision, here you are 44 years in from that initial time with Styx, that here you are, you're making new music. Obviously, like everybody, you had a tour postponed, but did you ever, obviously you left the band for a little bit, everybody knows that, but did you ever envision that sort of run with the band when you first got into it?
No, not the way it was, because it sort of, we peaked at a certain point, and then the chemistry started going like that, and then the co-working on songs, kind of everybody was not co-writing anymore, and pulling in different directions, and it really started feeling like a job. In retrospect, well, our manager got fired, who had been with us the whole way. Had he been with us after Paradise Theater, I really believe he would have said, "Guys, you're taking a year off. You're getting on each other's nerves. You should go all out and do solo projects. Get that out of your system. Then come back and you can appreciate each other." But it didn't work that way. So we wound up going one too far, where everything that was magical about the band had just sort of stagnated, and we pulled it together and did the best we could. But it's easy to look back in retrospect. Hindsight's 20/20 and all that. But yeah, that at that point, I didn't see Styx picking back up. But then we did go out and do solo albums. I think I did 3 of them at that point, and I really was tired of being the whole shooting match. And when the idea started coming around to get back together, it's like, well, let's just get together and see what it's like. And we got together, and it sounded the same, and we had fun. But after a while, it sort of went back to where it was in whenever that was, '83.
One more thing on songwriting, then I want to hit you with a couple other things. Can you tell me about writing Renegade, what the inspiration for that was, and how that came to you? I mean, it's one of my all-time favorite Styx songs. It's obviously an all-time classic. Can you tell me about that one?
Yeah, I was a huge Alan Parsons fan, and there was this Cask of I think Tales of Edgar Allan Poe, and he had this. I'm going to get up a second. He had this song, and I'm a terrible piano player, I warn you. He had this song called Cask of Amontillado. I think it was like that, and it went like... See, I told you. So, I didn't play keyboards on the records, but it was like... And so I just took... I took that. That's the same triad. Yeah. And I went, well, if I do this, and then Oh Mama came out. I was just, oh Mama, and then I just wrote down some words, and then that's how most of them get started. It's just a little seed of an idea, and you just keep watering the seed, and it starts getting roots, and next thing you know, you might play it for somebody.
So basically what you're saying is that you copped that from an Alan Parsons song.
Yeah, I've told Alan Parsons that. He loved it,
That's amazing, because I could hear what you played initially, and then how you sort of changed it up to turn it into your own thing. I mean, I'm so eternally fascinated by the songwriting process that I love that kind of stuff.
And you hear what a lousy keyboard player I am. So I was just proud of myself that, hey, I've got something here that I can play, not very well. And so that's when I switched over to guitar to do the rest of it. But it doesn't, it can come out ugly in the beginning. But if you take that ugly thing and you go, well, what needs to be fixed about it? And then you just keep working at it. And we do that to the very end. We'll because we love our stuff, and a lot of times we'll have this long introduction, and then we'll repeat the things at the end, and everything's through this song's like 6 minutes long. It's like, does that really need to repeat again? Does it? Why is that? This is a really artful thing in the beginning, but does it? Are you going to be fatigued by the time you get to the end of the record? That's what we like to do, is just listen to the whole album. Did you make it to the end? And sometimes it's like, no, I didn't make it past that song. I got distracted because it just kept repeating. So, that part goes. And we make it so that we can sit down and listen to the whole thing, and we think of it like an album, two sides. We want you not to lose your attention. We want to be constantly kind of, oh yeah, this is what's, and oh yeah, it's a story you're telling, whether it's a concept or not. It's a feeling. It's something, and this takes you to the next place, and it's like a scene change, and you're being entertained, and thought process. Hopefully, the thought process is getting tied into it. So we think way too much. My wife says we think too much, but it's we love records. We want to love this record, and we want it to fit in with some of the other great records, like the Pieces of 8 album. That's or Equinox. Those are two of my favorite Styx albums, and so we want everything to be sonically matching those, because we drifted, when everybody went to Pro Tools and digital and CDs and all that stuff started getting bright and long, and so we've gone back to no digital plug-ins. We do everything hits the tape heads. Todd records his drums on two 24-track Studer 2-inch tape machines. No digital plug-ins whatsoever. Everything's a tube processor. The echo is from one or two tape machines that are in the control room, and it sounds like that when you listen to it. It has a vintage. You don't think of it, but it has a very vintage sound.
And I love the fact that you guys do that. And I mentioned on the air before you came on with me, one of the last times I saw you play, I think you guys were out with Def Leppard or whichever tour it was. And one of my personal, as a rock fan, Tommy, one of my biggest peeves in the world right now in live music is bands not really playing live, where you find out there's all kinds of tracks and lip syncing and stuff going on, and it makes me bonkers. And it's rampant, and it's got to stop, in my opinion. And I love the bands that don't do it, who are taking credit for not doing it. And I went to a show, I think it was here in New Jersey where I live, and you said to the audience, we want everybody to know what you're hearing off this stage is live, and I believe you said in the original key. And I was on my chair saying, fuck yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be done. Show the kids, or even the older guys, what real rock and roll is about. I give you all the credit in the world for that. It was awesome.
I think what I said was, every mistake you hear tonight was performed live for you, because This music it's hard to play and sing and perform this stuff perfectly every night because we're all kind of spazzes up on stage. We have a lot of fun and it's like dancing. None of us can dance, but we can rock, and so it's a very physical thing. And then doing physical stuff and being around and watching your other bandmates, I get distracted sometimes, and next thing I know I'm like, whoops. And it's live though, and those things go right by. I think, oh God, I'm a disgrace now, and I'll hear it played back, and it was like, wait, I won't even hear it,
But But that's what a live show is supposed to be about. That's the magic of live. That's the experience. I saw Aerosmith on their residency, just before everything shut down, and they had a pretty rough night. They were a bit sloppy, and they ended the show. Steven and Joe looked at each other and said, "Man, that was quite a train wreck tonight, wasn't it?" And Joe's like, "Yeah," and Steven said to the crowd, "But did you have a good time?" And everyone's like, "Yeah." And then afterwards, I said to those guys, I said, "That was beautiful," and they're like, "Well, it wasn't." I go, "No. That's what I come to see. That's a real live rock show. That's how it's supposed to be."
And when someone breaks a string, it's like, what's he going to do now? How's he going to get through that? Because your guitar goes out of tune, and or if you trip or something like that, or anything that shows you're human, it's just, okay, that's okay. How do you get back? How do you recover from it? And that's because it's this live, organic thing going on. And, we're human beings, and sometimes you have a cold, and sometimes you didn't get enough rest. But fortunately, we call it the 8 o'clock thing, suiting up at 8 o'clock. Suddenly you're Superman, and you have all this adrenaline and any kind of thing that was making you feel less than 100%, you're back up to 100% for those 2 hours or however long you play. And then you're still kind of high from it the rest of the night. That's the one thing. Well, I have played on a couple of things where it was just me here with a guitar, and people had me come on their podcast or whatever, and I just play and sing into the computer, and it was like, oh, that was almost like a gig. That was so good. I enjoyed that so much.
Tommy, everybody is doing these sort of Zoom deals, Skype performances from their home studios. You put out a great version of the Zeppelin tune, Going to California. Was this born out of the fact that you're in lockdown and you just wanted to do it? Or is there a greater thing with this coming down the line, like a record or something?
Will and I talked about doing another solo album. I've got enough songs where I've got a good start on a solo album, but really Sticks comes first. This song, really, it was something that I've had for years. After Shaw Blades, we did our second record. Remember, we did that cover record called Influence. We did all these 70s covers. After that, we still kept doing stuff, but everyone started going back to their bands. The bands started getting back together. And we had Shaw Blades had run its course, and it was just nothing but great memories from that. And I love everything we wrote and recorded. But Will and I were in my studio in L.A. when I was still living in there, and he said, I wanted you to try going to California. And we were there, and so first of all, I was like, I don't know if I want to try and touch anything Robert Plant has done, because he, it's Robert Plant, and he's done, his is so magnificent. And Will he talked me into it and said, let's just, it was just you and me here, let's just do a track of it and see what happens. And so, as usual, we started getting way down into it, and so I figured out a way to sing it where I felt like I wasn't trying to turn it into something that didn't resemble the original one, but at the same time kind of put some of my own self into it, because I have a going to California story. I mean, that happened to me. I left New York. I got a relationship ended, and I just went. I did that. I got on a plane, and somebody told me there's a girl out there with flowers in her hair and love in her eyes, and it turns out she was back in Tennessee, but I went through California to get there, and I had a connection with the song.
Yeah, you did. It's a great version of it. And speaking of your voice, you know, and I wasn't joking when I say you always look the same to me and you always sound the same to me. Do you feel like vocally like you've lost anything? Is there anything, to my ears you haven't, but is there anything vocally that's hard for you to do now that was easy when you were much younger, or do you just have that gift? And I always say there's these guys that I call the freaks, and I mean that in the best of way, whether it be Glenn Hughes or Sammy Hagar or Robin Zander or Steven Tyler. I put you in that category as well, of guys that seemingly can just still sing anything regardless of age. And then you see guys that really struggle as they get older. Not the case with you. I mean, how do you feel? What do you attribute that to? Is it just genetics? Is it taking care of yourself? Where does it come from?
It's probably a little bit of everything. You know, the one thing is for sure, if you don't use it, you lose it. So it's you think about what the voice is. It's just these two little membranes surrounded by some muscles, and you just change those muscles around. It's like you're doing a kazoo. You know, you pull it tight, and it gets, the notes go higher. You relax it, the notes go lower, and you control it. And we don't think about that, but that's what it is. And if you let those muscles get out of shape, it's like, well, I used to be able to pick up 150 pounds, but I stopped, working out. Now I can pick up 20 pounds. So you have to keep doing, you have to keep working at it. But it's not so much work. I like to sing, but I do come down here and I'll sing along with stuff. I was been singing along, trying to sing "Carry On My Wayward Son," because that's the Olympics of lead vocals right there. And I've almost got it.
Well, Steve Walsh himself admitted that, and I think to Steve Walsh's great credit, he said, "I can't do this anymore," and he respectfully left Kansas because, and there's no shame in that. I mean, just making the analogy to working out, it's just like athletes. I mean, my favorite sports teams, those guys can't play anymore because time comes for everybody eventually. So I thought how Steve handled that part of his career was really admirable. But that's a high mark to sort of work out to. That's like pushing the heavy barbell right there.
Nobody in here but me. So it's fun to try and figure out how to do it, because I learned something when I first moved to Nashville. It's an obvious thing. Jeannie and I, when we used to drive to Las Vegas and go through the desert and just get lost and find our way there. And so we would play different kind of music in the car, and we had the George Jones Greatest Hits, and we would sing "She Thinks I Still Care" in the car, then we'd play it again, and just, it's because it's such an unusual voice and such a sad song. And but a week after we moved here, I got a call from my manager, who was down at the Bridgestone Arena, and he said they're doing the last no-show concert for George Jones. He had passed away. They called him No-Show because he was famous for not showing up for gigs, and wow. So everybody in town was going to be on it, and Alabama was supposed to sing "She Thinks I Still Care," and one of their guys got sick and was in the hospital, and they all went to see him. And so the promoter said, "Do you think Tommy would do it?" And so they called me up and said that. And that song was like, yes, I've sung it in the car. So then I said, okay, let me go down and play it. And then I'm thinking about standing on that stage in front of 18,000 country fans and singing that song. But so I had to first of all, I had to find my right key. And to my surprise, he has a lower voice than I do. I thought we both had high voices. I had to go up about 3 steps to get into my sweet zone, so I could sing those high notes and have them sound right. And then I had to learn the words. It's one thing to sing in the car, but to get up on the stage with the band, who was George Jones' band, in front of all those people, in front of all these, there's 80 country stars there. And Dave Mustaine was there. a few rock people, Sam Moore, but mostly country. So I'm getting there, and I'm like, I got to memorize these words. I got to sound check. I screwed it up during sound check, and I'm like, oh God. So backstage, and there was not enough dressing rooms for everybody. So there was 80 of us with our people, and so they were taking them in groups of 20 or 40 or whatever. And so my manager had my guitar, and Jeannie had the lyric sheets. And so I was telling everybody, I'm so sorry, but I have to practice this so I can go do it. So I'm singing it backstage, and Garth Brooks is listening to me and going, what is wrong with this guy, you know? But I got it. I mean, I got it right at the last minute. When I walked up there and they introduced me, I followed Eric Church, and I got up there, and they started before I even walked on the stage. They were just like boom, boom, boom. And so I got up there just in time to plug my guitar in. Just because I asked a friend about her, just because I spoke her name somewhere, you know, there I was singing. She thinks that when they said from the rock group Styx, you could hear everybody kind of go. And then that was like, yeah, but I've got it now. You don't realize I've got it. And by the time I got to the end of it, everybody sang along with me, and they were like, oh, all right. But it's because I did the homework. You know, I knew there's nothing like being prepared versus being unprepared. Prepared, yeah. It's fun. When you don't know what you've got, that's scary.
Hey, I got about 5 minutes left here because I want to make sure that I have time to play Going to California so everybody can hear it and you can listen to it and get it, any of the streaming services. But I cannot let you go without asking the obligatory question. You mentioned Jack Blades and you did those great Shaw Blades records. A few weeks ago, Ted Nugent was on here. Every time I have one of the three of you on this show, I got to ask him the question that my audience asks all the time. And from each one of you, I tend to get a slightly different answer when I ask about Damn Yankees. Can you tell the audience if you think there will ever be a show, a record, a song? Is there any desire for you to do anything with Damn Yankees again?
Well, we never broke up. You know, so
you could never really do it. Yeah, you never did a farewell tour.
No, we didn't do a farewell tour. We may have done one now. I mean, who knows? But no, we're all still best of friends, and we always get on. We'll probably start doing Zoom chats now, but we're constantly, when somebody has a birthday or a holiday or something, somebody will start a thread, and everybody will be on it, and we'll all just be saying hi, I love you, and saying dumb shit to each other, and so we're who knows. It's hard because, you know, with Styx, we work so much, and to do that, it would mean putting them out of work for a while. So it's a tough one. But every once in a while, we wind up on the same stage.
Do you feel like there's unfinished business with that band, Tommy? Is there a side of you as an artist that you'd like to even do a record or a song or put a sort of a button on it if you aren't going to do it anymore?
Well, we could always do more. I don't think you could ever put a button, we're done button on any of the members of Damn Yankees. Who knows? Never say never, though, and we haven't said never.
Well, that's good. We'll take some heart in that because Jack is still as good as he's ever been. Ted is as great as he's ever been and still out of his mind. And then, of course,
practice.
And then you've got Michael, who on this never-ending Skinner farewell that doesn't seem to end. So that's another issue, I'm sure.
He really did such a great, you know, it was like getting a new engine in your car. You know, they're like a hot rod Skinner, you know, ever since he's been in the band, and he's a great guy, great hang. You know, I know they love him to death.
Well, listen, man, I appreciate the time. I love having you on, and it's been too long. Stay well, stay healthy. My best to your family. And I guess for Styx fans, it's just kind of wait and see. You guys are in the same holding pattern as everybody else as far as when you'll be able to get back out on the road. But it's sounding like maybe new music before even the tour will happen. So at least you're being creative in the studio with some stuff coming.
That's a good possibility, and it's a totally different kind of album, but it's got a thread that runs through it. We can't help it because this one we're just kind of writing about what's in the air. You know, we're not political. You know, we're everybody's band. I know that's an odd place to be, but we want everyone to come see us. Everyone has always come to see us. We've never said we only like you people and not the other people, and so we try and keep, try and stick to that. But we're all humans, and we're all humans going through what we're going through, and that's what we like to write about. It's almost like gospel music. I've always said that gospel music is. And the thing I always loved about it, well, first of all, great singers. And they got the guy, you always got that guy with the high voice and really good bass singer. And I noticed about their songs, a lot of times it would deal with sorrow and loss and tragedy. But in the end, everything's going to be all right. And that's kind of something, I don't know if it's subconscious, but a lot of our Styx songs are like that.
Yep. Styx, gospel music with loud guitars. I think that's the new motto.
Yes.
I like it. It works. It's worked for about 50 years, so why stop now? Tommy, great to see you. And thank you for the time. And when I get to Nashville, I'm going to look you up. We're going to do some stuff in that studio and have you come in and sit in on a show. That'll be a lot of fun.
I would love that.
Best of luck with the record. Say hi to the guys and stay safe, man. I'll talk to you soon.
कैसे भूल पैगो जान बगिया उतलैया हो अचके में आके ओ पकड़ल हमर बहिया हो कैसे भूल पैगो जान बगिया उतलैया के में